I am happy to announce the 10th annual Butch Ward Scholarship Bass Fishing Tournament that is being held at the Fish and Games Club on Big Slack on the Upper Potomac River. The event is Sunday, October 26th, and blast off is at 7:30 a.m. It is $115 per boat. You can fish with a partner or by yourself, and the event is going to go until 3:30 p.m. Big Slack on the Upper Potomac River is a scenic impoundment in Western Maryland, and it's one of the few places in Maryland you can safely operate a fiberglass bass boat without any motor restrictions. But fair warning, Big Slack is no Bass Pro Shop aquarium or stocked bass pond. This is a tough fishery that's going to challenge the best anglers. But if you can catch them here, it'll make the Ohio River or New Jersey look like Lake Gunnersville. For more information, link in the episode description down below. See you there. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens. Happy October, everybody. We are in Halloween season as we speak. And to get into the season, we are going down back to Bugs Island, or for you North Carolinians, Kerr Lake. And I have back on the myth, the legend, Threadfin guide service. We have Zach on the show. Zach, how are you doing today?
Good. I appreciate you for having me on again.
Dude, it is always a pleasure to have you. How you been? What's been going on in your world?
Fishing, chasing stripers, chasing spotted bass mainly. So that's been really good.
How has the striper fishing been?
It's been really good. This year we got started a little earlier. Usually I don't start until October. But we started in August this year. We had really good schools coming up feeding early in the morning. So, I mean, we were seeing for August really good size schools. I mean, we saw some upwards of 5-6 acres coming up all at once feeding on the surface. So we've been fishing topwater for what, 2.5 months now, 2 months now. So it's been fun. Been wearing out a lot of Zara spooks. I need to repaint a lot of them. They're all missing their paint now.
That's a good problem to have. And then if you guys don't know, I'll put a link in the episode description to our first episode and also all of his contact information. You generally guide on bugs, or what is just a quick cliff note for everybody if this is the first time hearing you?
Pretty much mainly bugs. Grew up on bugs. I live in North Carolina now, so I cover a lot of the lakes around the Raleigh area, and then all winter I'm down at the coast doing sight fishing for redfish. So
how was that?
Words can't describe when you come up on 100 redfish in a foot of water. So you can imagine what that's like.
It's so cool, the area you live in, that you can so easily transition between chasing tailing reds to busting striper and Zara spooks. It's so neat because where you live, it's so easy for you to bounce between both locations.
Oh, it's nice. Like even, I mean, say you get a big rain up the Stanton or something and it blows out the lake. I just go to another lake in North Carolina, or we can switch gears and run down to the coast, we did a lot of live bait fishing this year, which I usually don't do, which that was fun. We were, especially right before flounder season came in and there wasn't that much pressure. We were going down there and just hammering the reds on live bait.
And then, guys, for the people that are listening, if somebody would like to come on and talk about the flounder regulation in North Carolina, I'm very interested in that whole thing. I heard from, I think, Nolan Miner in a comment section that it's a different species of flounder, but I don't. Anyway, but yeah, so let me know about that. But anyway, back on topic. The striper fishing is interesting, and I'm a novice when it comes to actually chasing striper specifically, but I believe you said the bite started pretty good a month and some change ago. Is that normal?
It usually, I'd say yes, but it's not as consistent as it was this year. Usually, I mean, say you go out for 5 days in a row, maybe 2 of those days, they actually come up and feed well enough to get a limit or catch your fill. That time of year, with the water temperatures being so high, it's not catch and release. You're gonna if you're going to go target them, I tell my clients, like, we're going to keep them because their mortality rate is through the roof that time of year. So there's no point. Like, if somebody gets on and they're like, oh, I don't want to keep any, then we'll go chase spotted bass or largemouth or something like that. But now we're getting up. The water temperatures were down. We had a few warm days. They went back up to 76. But once they get below 70 or so, um, that release, they're good. I mean, give them a good release and they're fine. But in August, September, those fish, it's hard on those fish, even though they're coming up willingly to the 76-degree water temperatures to feed. Once you reel them in, they're just like belly up at the boat. So we usually keep them that time of year.
At what water temperature does it become? Is it easier for catch and release?
Anything below 70. So the striper, they thrive in the cooler water. So 50s, 60s, that's what they want. So when it's, I'd say anything above 70, honestly, that's when they get kind of weird. But at the same time, we can always go target them at night. With those cooler nights, those fish tend to be a little bit more hardy. Even with warmer water temperatures, like down where we were catching them back in August, the water's 80, 90 feet deep, and they're coming all the way up from 90 feet to the surface, and they're pushing those big bait balls up and feeding on them. So down there, that water's a little cooler usually, just because we get closer to the dam, things like that. A lot of those guys are jigging for them that time of year, though. So you'll see a lot of boats trolling, a lot of guys jigging with live scope, but I don't have the patience for any of that. I like chasing them around with top water, so I might not limit out every day, but I'd much rather see them blitzing in a cove or something and throw top water to them.
What is your go-to spook?
Whatever the biggest one is, solid chartreuse or one of the saltwater editions one they make. It's got a pink like hot head and the rest of it's white. That's a good one. And then this year I started throwing the Lucky Craft, the Gunfish 117, and that quickly became one of my favorites. That bait, it does everything. It's got like the cupped nose where you can kind of pop it or chug it. It walks the dog. You can kind of skitter it like I forget who makes it, the skitter walker or whatever they call it. So that's a great bait. It does everything. It's got 3 hooks on it, so it can be a nightmare when you actually have a thrashing striper in the boat with it, but you don't miss many fish with them.
Now, I'd be remiss if I don't talk about what's behind you there. You do a lot of fly fishing. You guide for a lot of fly fishing. What are we looking at here in the backdrop?
So I just grabbed a few for you. So essentially, I got a few top waters. This is a crease fly.
Oh, cool.
Looks familiar, just like a popper. It's all foam, epoxied. And this kind of skitters and kind of almost like a pencil popper. It doesn't really do anything, but just kind of skip around. Um, so that's been a really good fly bait. We throw that on floating lines for the stripers as well as spotted bass. Um, this is probably my favorite. This is called a banger. It's just a big saltwater cylindrical popper, pushes a lot of water. And that's on a 3/0 hook, solid chartreuse. So when we come up on those schools that time of year, usually I haven't broken out all my sinking lines. So for those who aren't familiar with fly rods, you have, unlike a spin rod where your bait is what sinks or floats and all your lines the same, fly rods, you have sinking fly line or floating fly line kind of for different applications. So August through September, I usually have a rod with floating line and a 20-pound leader to one of these. And then as it gets cooler, when that topwater bite starts to die down, we're still catching them on topwater. I mean, you can catch them in November on top water when they're doing that, but you're just going to hook up more if you're throwing like a jig or something, paddle tail. So we got a couple, that's called a half and half. It's just hackle and bucktail, essentially a
Hmm.
bucktail jig for a fly rod. So that catches a
What's
lot of.
the depth of that bad boy? Top water or subsurface?
This is all, these next three are subsurface. So
Okay.
these I throw on sinking fly lines, lines that sink anywhere from 1.5 inches to 6 inches per second. This is really catches most of my fish subsurface. Just a flashy, it's on a jigged hook. So it always rides hook point up, real flashy. That's a good bait at night when we're fishing dock lights. That's kind of my go-to. And then lately, when these fish are on these small bait, Henry Cohen out of, I think he's North Georgia, Lake Lanier. He's kind of like the landlocked striper on the fly pioneer. This is one of his patterns. This is the something else. It's just craft fur, kind of Clouser minnow on a small hook. This is a number 2. So
Hmm.
considering this is pretty small for going from 3 and 4 aughts, but it's just about 2.5 inch. It's got that little pink on there for a throat. And the weight's on the bottom of the hook, so that fly is going to ride hook point up like that.
Ah.
And this has been catching most of our fish lately. Besides at night, we've been throwing a lot of this bigger stuff.
What size? I mean, again, complete noob when it comes to the fly side. What would the gear be? Just basic stuff if people want to get involved to be able to throw that consistently. What should they purchase?
So I'd get either anywhere from 7 to 9 weight fly rods. So as far as fly rods go, think of 7 to 9 weight as kind of medium to medium heavy. Those are going to be your bigger weight fly rods. They go up from there, but I use 7 and 8 weight rods. I'd say if you had to pick one, just get an 8 weight. You can do your saltwater stuff in Virginia and North Carolina, redfish, stuff like that. So just pretty versatile rod. We use them for largemouth and smallmouth when we're throwing bigger flies, things like that. So that, if you had to pick one line, I'd get a full intermediate that sinks 1.5 inches per second. Just because even when fish are coming up to the surface feeding like that, a subsurface fly, they're going to hit it. I mean, they're in that 3 feet, first 3 feet of the water caught them feeding. So if that fly sinks down, those full intermediate lines, they kind of stay in that strike zone longer versus a full sinking line that's only going to be in it for a couple seconds and then it's too deep.
When you set the hook on striper, I know with muskie, when I've had Blue Ridge muskie on stuff like that, when you set the hook with a fly rod, you point it and you actually are using almost like your arm and you pull the line into a muskie because their mouths are like cinder block. With a striper, is there a certain technique you need to actually employ to have a better hookup ratio?
The same thing. So there's 2 kinds of hook sets, I should say. I call it trout set, which for trout is just kind of straight up. With your bigger game species, stripers, redfish, anything besides trout, really, kind of point that rod tip at the fish, and with your open hand that you're stripping the line with, you're just going to give it one long hard strip. I mean, you want to rip, you're like pulling that hook into its mouth, and then once they're hooked, you can just feed them line until they're on the reel, or you can fight them by stripping them in. However, really the size of the fish determines that. If it's a 40-pound striper or a bull red or something like that, you're not going to strip them in. They're going to take that line and go. So I say if fish aren't pulling line, I am. So if they're not forcing me to the reel where I'm using my drag, I'm just going to keep on stripping them in.
Oh, cool. Guys, if you have any questions about fly fishing or striped bass fishing, just reach out to us. I'll put a contact information in the episode description. What is prime time for striper fishing?
Prime time's November. If I had to pick a month that I was out there every single day, it's November. That's when we start getting our birds started showing up now, but they're not on the fish yet. They're just trying to get their bearings right. When those birds get on the fish, I mean, takes out all the riding around looking through binoculars. You see 100 birds hitting the water. You go over there. There's feeding
Mm.
stripers right under them. So, and you get a big push. All the fish start heading up the lake. And then once that happens, you kind of like this time of year, you might only have one school that comes up or two schools that comes up. So you got 15 boats. Everybody's trying to fish the same school. Inevitably, somebody runs over them and pushes them down. So November, there's a lot more fish coming up more consistently. So you can usually get away from the crowd and just go find your own school somewhere else up the lake.
We've talked about this on our last show and kind of just bring it back up because I think it's fascinating. Do striper eat the same thing throughout the year, or does their forage change? Like, is it blueback one time a year, then it's threadfin shad the other time a year, or is it pretty much they stick with one food source 24/7?
I'd say they eat a little bit of everything. I'd say if they're to put on paper, most of their diet is threadfin shad. Um, they do eat the bluebacks a lot. This year, we were catching stripers in the morning, and bring them in the boat, and they're coughing up, little threadfin. And then the very next cast, you'll catch a spotted bass, and he'll cough up a mouthful of bluebacks. So
That's wild.
they're all mixed in together. 90% of the fish we've caught, if they cough anything up in the boat, it's threadfin. And that's really come October, November, December, all the fish that you are chasing, they're on those big threadfin balls that you see up the lake. I have some videos of a cove last year. There's so much bait in there, you could have took a cup and just scooped up. It's like they couldn't move. All the bait was so tight up in there. It was crazy. And then it was, like when you're frog fishing on grass and a bass comes up and blows a hole in it, you have
Mhm.
all those holes in the mat. That's what the shad looked like. There was these holes where a striper would come up through them. It was the wildest thing. I haven't seen it since or before that. It was just one day. There's so much bait in this cove. I was probably chopping them up with the trolling motor, honestly.
It- Is that normal for the lake? I mean, I guess I've heard of the gizzard shad population. Of course, I think the biggest in the bass fishing community, it's the rise of the blueback herring and how that's affected it. But it sounds like the threadfin are pretty healthy. Is that a new occurrence, or has it always been that way?
Obviously, they're a little bit more spread out. I don't see the size of bait balls I did as I was growing up, but there's still so much threadfin. You go out like the other evening, we were in 30 feet of water, fish waiting for a school to come up. They'd been coming up in the same kind of cove every evening. And eventually they ended up not coming up. A bunch of white bass and largemouth and spots came up and we had some fun with them. But from like 28 feet to the surface was all shad. Like my screen was like blacked out. I was like, what's wrong with it? And then I moved the boat and I was like, oh, I'm just sitting in 30 feet of shad essentially.
Wow.
And then as the sun was setting and it got like glass calm, anytime somebody cranked their motor to leave, it looked like rain, like the whole surface rippled of all the shad kind of jolting. So I think it just depends on where you're at on the lake and the time of year. Like we're seeing a ton of bait. There's no shortage for them to eat.
Does the cold weather, and I don't think I asked you this last time. I Pulling from my little knowledge, I think it's threadfin are the ones that have the least amount of cold water tolerance. Gizzard shad can handle colder water. So if that's correct, last winter when everything froze, did that kill off a lot of them or did they survive?
Yeah, we had a big kill off last year. Honestly, any year, which growing up we used to duck hunt a lot, so we looked forward to if the rivers froze, which is rare. I've seen it twice in my life when the Stanton and the Dan freeze up, lock up. Um, Anytime you start getting freezing in coves or on the lake, that's going to kill them off. It's just like with speckled trout. You get a big cold snap, you get teens, and everything's freezing up for multiple days. You're going to get a big kill. Um, I mean, they're a 3-inch little bait fish. They can't withstand but so much, but you got to think the way they come back is just ridiculous. Those gizzard shad, the way they survive that I've seen on live scope, catching them for catfish bait in the wintertime, is they get down in the mud. And you can, on live scope, you'll throw your cast net and you'll see it coming down. And it'll look like on the bottom, like 2 gizzard shad. And here comes the net. And as soon as it hits the bottom, first time I saw it, my buddy was like, watch this. The net hit the bottom and he started beating on the bottom of the boat. And inside the net, all these gizzard shad come out the mud and he pulls up like 20 of them. So gizzard shad, I guess I don't know how they've adapted over the years, but they just kind of bury themselves down in the mud from what I've seen.
That's cool as shit. I mean, I know there's a lot of crap
about. It was
about
pretty cool to witness.
Yeah, like
I was like, I got to try this now. So I went up there and threw the net, was stomping, and sure enough, here they come out the mud into the inside of the net. It was pretty cool.
Because I know live scope gets a lot of hate, but the cool factor of without it, there are so many stories I wouldn't believe unless I saw it with scope and be like, oh my God, this is actually true. That's one of them right there.
Yeah, I don't have live scope personally, but the style of fishing I do, it doesn't really matter. I'm very much chasing fish, schooling, no matter what it is, them forcing bait to the surface, and we're throwing top water. Pretty much all summer, whether it be white bass, spotted bass, largemouth, stripers, they all do it. And then this time of year, they all start mixing together and doing it. So that school I was talking about a minute ago with all that bait, and we caught a little bit of everything. There was guys catching stripers. There was just so many fish coming up. You were going to hook up pretty much every cast, but you just didn't know what it was going to be. Unfortunately, we didn't get any stripers, but a buddy of mine, I think he caught 1 or 2. And it's pretty cool when they all get mixed in like that. It makes it fun. And it's good when you have hard days where the stripers don't come up good and your clients can still go catch. I mean, yesterday we didn't see any stripers come up. One time they came up and we were kind of late to the party, but we saw fish blowing up in a cove and went in there, and it was 2-pound largemouth and 1.5 pound white bass. And we caught our fill on top water. So.
Well, I got something for you guys here, which I found on Instagram, a little clip that Zach has. So let me see if I can share my screen. Let's go with just the window here. And this is, hopefully this comes through. This is just a classic, just bait busting. Really cool video. Would love to almost get my snorkel, my underwater camera, and just to see what it looks like from underneath them busting. The first thing I have is I can see your trolling motor there in the frame. Do they just not care about the boat? I would think that they would have spooked off.
That school in that video was, so I had story behind that quickly. I had clients that morning, actually that full day, and it was overcast, perfect conditions. And I think by lunchtime we were at like 40 stripers. So we ended up the day, he called it early. He said he was tired of catching them. He caught over 60 fish that day, but I wasn't fishing. So I took him back to the ramp, dropped him off, and it was getting evening. I went back out and I'm running up the lake and I don't see any fish coming up. And I see a boat like tucked way up in this corner by himself. And I'm like, the only people out this time of year are striper fishing. He's probably on fish. So I ease over there, and he said they had just come up and he caught a couple. And then I turned around, and that video right there where they're busting off the trolling motor, it was about 4 to 5 acres of fish came up, and they stayed up for 45 minutes. And it
Mm.
was me and one other boat. So we probably both caught 25, 30 fish. But
Can
we
you
got to a point.
tell? Oh, sorry.
What's
Finish
that?
your story. I
I
was
was
gonna say,
saying it was just cooler to video them at that point. Like, I caught my fill. It's wild to see them stay up that long.
what can you discern from a bait ball like this? Like, is it the amount of birds? Will tell you like how many fish are there. Like, what are you looking for when you're driving at 100 miles an hour down the lake and you see busting fish? Is there something particular you want to see to make you stop?
No, me personally, any fish busting, I gotta stop and take a look. That's just me. I love chasing fish that way. It's not for everybody. I will say, if you have live scope and go jig striper, you might have more success. We had a day this year, we were limited out by 7:15,
Wow.
and I went back out that evening, and the same guys that were trolling that morning were still trolling, trying to come out for the limit. So when they really do come up, it's hot and heavy, whether it's for 2 minutes or 20 minutes. So when I'm riding and looking for fish busting, this time of year, any fish busting, you got to take advantage of it. In the fall, like that, late November, mid November, I'm just looking for birds. At that point, you're just looking for fish that are going to stay up. You can go from school to school that time of year and catch all the stripers you want. Um, I usually will pull up on a school and catch a fish. It depends on how big that first fish is. If I catch a 20-inch fish right off the bat, it's safe to assume the rest of them are 18, 20-inch fish.
Hmm.
So I'll just leave them, go find another school. And say you pull up on a second school and your first fish is 26, 27 inches. They're pretty much all going to be that size as well. So I prefer to just look for the bigger fish.
When you approach this, and you hinted on this earlier, for a person that's new, they're driving down the lake. In a normal circumstance, do you sit the boat down right on top of them? When do you want to come off pad? Like, how do you approach when you see birds?
So time is of the essence, right? So when those fish come up, you don't know how long they've been up or if they're going to stay up for an hour or what. So you want to make the most out of every opportunity. So I'll get within probably 50 yards of them and kill the motor. And then you're going to drift in, say another 10 yards or so while you're dropping the trolling motor, and then ease up to them with the trolling motor. You don't want to just run right up to the school and kill your motor. And then you're going to drift on top of them. They're going to go down. So kind of, I'd say the etiquette of it is to get within 50, 100 yards of them and then kind of drift in, kill your motor, drop the trolling motor. Because a gas motor is going to push those fish down 9 times out of 10. So say there's 8 guys already fishing a school. You don't want to be the one guy that runs up and pushes them all down just because you get excited and come in hot. You see it all the time. Luckily November, there's usually enough fish that doesn't matter. But you have a lot of guys that aren't too happy with you and they've been riding around all day and finally get on a school and you run them down. So I try to stay back a good bit. And with the rods I'm using, as far as my spin rods, we can throw. I mean, you can throw 40, 50 yards into those schools, you know? So it's not like you have to be right on top of them to catch them. I would say make sure you're invest in a good setup, like 10, 15 pound braid, something you can actually throw a good distance. Don't go out there with 30-pound braid, and you're only getting 10, 20-foot cast out of it. Because then you do have to be right on top of those schools.
Mm-hmm. Guys, there's the juice right there. That's really, really cool. That's really cool. And it shows you like how important casting distance is for whether it's striped bass or what we're going to be getting into next, which is the greenfish too. Guys, if you want to go, if you guys want to go striper fishing, bites just heating up. So again, go book a trip with Threadfin Guide Service. I'll put a link in the episode description. As always, all that stuff. But we have all the regional tournaments, national tournaments, championships are starting to converge on Old Bugs Island. What are we looking at water temperature wise right now in early October? And with that said, how is the bass fishing been?
I fished 2 days ago for bass, and the water temperature was 76. I want to say it went back up. I was seeing 74 for a while, but 76, 77 is what I saw the other day. So the bass have been really good. Kind of their usual fall secondary points, 8 to 12 feet of water. I've been catching most of my fish on either top water, Kitech 2.8 on a ball jig head. That's one of my favorites. And then I went out the other day with a rig, which I know not everybody's a fan of it, but I don't care. When you're catching them 3 or 4 at a time on an A rig, I love it. So I went out the other morning. I fished 2 hours. We caught 17 on A rigs. The biggest fish was 2 pounds, but when you get 3 of them on there, it's pretty fun. So we'll see how it should just get better. I'll probably fish tomorrow, just bass fish. And then the spotted bass, they're still going nuts. I forget what tournament it was. I don't really follow the bass tournaments. They had a big one on bugs the other day, and every picture I saw, it was like 3 spots and 2 largemouths, or 4 spots and a largemouth. So it's quickly becoming, I think everybody's just like, let me go grind it out and get a box full of spots real quick, and then we'll go look for some largemouth, or at least that's what it looked like to me. We were trying to striper fish, and it was like 7:15, and we're waiting for, like, usually it's around that time the fish start coming up, and we're sitting there, and I look and come around the bend, it's like 30 bass boats, and every point on that end of the lake we were fishing had like 1 or 2 boats 50, 100 yards apart, live scoping spots. And I was like, all right, let's wrap it up. We'll go try again tomorrow. It was brutal out there. But the spotted bass, we've been same thing at Kitech 2.8. If only they held up a little better. That's one of my favorite baits out there, besides spoons and topwater.
Why?
As far as the Kitech, it's perfect size. There's a lot of 3-inch baits out there. There's a lot of 2.5. Something about that 2.8, it's just kind of 3/4. That just crushes them. Unfortunately, you catch like 1 or 2 fish, and you got to put a new one on. They don't hold up the best. But
why do you think the spotted bass are starting to really take root? Is it a time thing? It's just they've been in there long enough? Is it the water quality's improved, cleaner, better bait? Like, if you had to guess.
if I had to guess, it's just perfect conditions for them. If you look down on like Lake Lanier, or what is it? Is it Cartersville? All those like North Georgia lakes where they have really established spotted bass fisheries. I mean, these guys are catching 6-pound spots like it's nothing down there. And I think our lakes resemble that when you get down on the southeastern end towards the dam. I mean, you have 80, 90 feet of water. You have big rocky points. You got, I mean, stable conditions. And for the time of year that you want to be down there chasing spots, late summer, early fall, the bait's there too. So Um, I've seen those bluebacks. They like to go down to that into the lake and hang out. I don't know if they just stay there through the summer. I rarely see them up near Clarksville, that area, besides in the spring when they go up the river. But the threadfin are there. I mean, they got ample opportunity. That's one of the only ends of the lake that you see much grass anymore. You'll see grass on points and stuff. So I think they
At
just
what
got
end of the lake?
so the dam end, I'd say that would technically be the east end of the lake, southeast end of the lake. When you're kind of Eastland Creek, all that stuff. When you get down
Okay.
there, that's where, like, if I have somebody that books a trip and they're like, I want to go chase spots, like, I'm going to put in on that end of the lake.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know that there's some grass in the lake. It hasn't been completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's not like when
Lush.
I'm sure when I say grass, guys are like, there's no grass out there. Like, yeah, because they're comparing it to lake whatever, and you're
Yeah.
like punching
Okeechobee.
mats and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I say grass, it's like a 15 by 15 square on a point, but the water level's up. That 15 by 15 foot square is submerged, and there might be 15 bass sitting in it. So,
Mm.
I mean, all our bigger largemouths that we've caught this summer on fly and spin have been down there focusing on that grass.
Is it like water willow, or is it like something like coontail, something submergent?
I'd say it's more like coontail
Okay.
because it kind of dies off. Like right now, the water's really low. I think we're at like 296, 297. So water's super low. So a lot of that grass is like high and dry and kind of dying off. But comes back every year.
It's always blows my mind that, people have such a hatred, stay-at-home wine moms that live at HOAs have such a hatred for SAV, but you put a patch the size of a car windshield in the lake and every living thing wants to be there. So it's like they probably know something of why that's so important to them. It's just, God, if there was a ton of hydrilla in that lake, that place would be insane. Like how good it could be. It's I don't know, cool, fascinating.
Yeah, if only there was a way they could like just put it in like one or two creeks and it not
Yeah,
overtake the rest of the lake. Like, oh,
yeah.
this creek and this creek have a whole pile of hydrilla in them. Like that'd be pretty cool. Just do something different. I don't fish grass much besides kind of that August, late July, August. We'll go find grass, and most patches aren't going to have a bun- ton of bass in them. I mean, they might
Hmm.
have 6 to 10, and half of those fish are not even keepers or weighable fish, I should say. But you go down a lot of that grass, you'll get say 1 or 2, 3, 4 pound largemouth out of it. I mean, that counts. Like 4 pound largemouth could make a world of a difference especially a
Hmm.
Bugs Island tournament when a lot of those fish are all 2, 3 pound fish.
What temperature are you looking for when bass really start making a transition in their behavior? I mean, would you consider, I think you said earlier, like 65 to 77 degrees? Is that normal fall temperature? What would you consider a fall temperature at Bugs Island?
I'd say for me, my ideal conditions are like mid to upper 60s, 65, 68. I like that time frame, that temperature. I used to fish a lot of soft plastics, big worms, lizards, and my grandfather growing up, it was like as soon as that water temperature change, like his Texas rig, like he took off the big 10.5 inch worm and put on like a watermelon lizard, and he would just crush bass. Um, so that was kind of like over the years, I've always thought about that. Like that was just his go-to bait. It's not like every bass is looking for a lizard, but um, we started throwing a lot. Um, I try to scratch out the top water bite as long as I can. I'm a sucker for, I'll throw top water all day for one blow up. That's just how how I like to fish. But the good thing is the spoon bite continues to get good or get better. A lot of people think, I remember last time we talked, I was talking about those little spoons. Most people don't fish those until late fall and winter. Down deep, they're jig bass and things like that, those casting spoons. So kind of everything I've been doing all summer long, I just keep rolling with it into the fall.
Hmm.
So I'm still catching a lot of fish on, 3-inch paddle tails, 2.5-inch paddle tails, and then spoons and topwater, which at the same time I'm targeting striper as well. So I kind of I don't get into the real technical bass fishing, drop shots and this and that.
Yeah.
It's just not my cup of tea. I have a handful of lures that really work well for the style that I do. So there might be a million guys that listen to this podcast that know 10 times more than I do. I'm not going to say I can catch bass consistently. I'm not going to be out there winning tournaments. I'll say that. But the way I like to do it, we've kind of got it dialed in. So
When do you start making the switch to, because we got to touch on this thing. You don't just guide at bugs. When do you make the transition again for people that are interested to the saltwater species?
So this year I'll probably do it in December. Usually it's the first of the year. Um, I'm going to kind of start a little early this year just because, fishing was already red hot last year. So I'll probably start, you know, right before Christmas time. It depends how the striper go. Once the striper get in the backs of creeks and things come December, I kind of don't fiddle with them just because I'm not live scoping or trying to jig them. So when they quit coming up good, that's when I kind of transition over. But last year, early mid December, we were still finding big schools on the main lake coming up. So
Oh, wow.
we'll see. I will say if you want to do it, give me a call in mid December, late December. Those redfish are already schooled up that time of year. So that's a good time to get out. They don't get much pressure.
Guys, there you have it. And then the last thing I want to make sure we touch on is you mentioned a couple of times when you're using a spoon or something like that. What spoons can be 15 inches long to the size of a quarter? What is your spoon setup, and what spoon do you like to throw?
So are you familiar with IRT reels?
Yes.
I fish IRTs. They're made in Pennsylvania. IRTs, 15-pound braid, 7/6 medium spin rod, and then, usually 14, 15-pound fluoro leader. Just because when you're fishing those spoons, you don't know what you're going to hook into. Everything eats the spoons out there. So you could be fishing spots and then hook into a 30-inch striper. So my go-to spoon is I get the little Cleo, the Acme little Cleo, 1/3 ounce. They come in weird sizes. The 1/3 ounce and I think it's a 2/5 ounce they sell. Those are my go-tos. I just get the nickel color. I don't worry about the others. Sometimes they make one that it's like half teal, half chrome. That's good when those spots are really feeding on the bluebacks. But usually if they're spotted bass, a silver one's going to catch them every time, and you don't have to get fancy with it. And make sure you add a swivel somewhere in there, whether you're a swivel up the leader guy. I put a swivel straight to the O-ring, just so you don't. A lot of guys want to reel that swivel through the first eye of the rod, and I try to keep that from happening. So just run a swivel right to the O-ring, and that usually does it. It's a good weight too. Those little Cleos, they flutter really nice. So
Hmm.
you can jig them, you can flutter them around brush piles. That really catch a lot of bigger bass doing that. Most of the time, I'm just running around looking for schooling fish on the surface. So once those fish school, say we pull up on a school of bass, we're throwing top water. As soon as those fish go down, we just grab a rod with a little Cleo on it, throw right in there. You'll usually pick up a few more bass, and then once that school moves, you kind of rinse and repeat. So just chase those fish around. Usually all summer I have a topwater rod and a rod with a spoon. That usually is the ticket.
There you have it, guys. If somebody wants to book a guide trip with you, just, what do they have to do, and plug what you want to plug?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, threadfinguide.com. If you want to just look at some of my trips and book, you can go to anycreek.com and search Threadfin Guide Service. You'll see I have a whole list of trips on there. Or just give me a call at 434-265-3064. Shoot me a text, whatever you want. We can talk trips, talk fishing.
Good stuff. Guys, he is one of the best guys out there for Bugs Island. Whether you're fly fishing, conventional tackle, want to catch striper, want to go catch schooling spotted bass, go give him a follow on Instagram and give him a contact. As always, link in the episode description to everything that we talked about. And if you guys want to, also check out my Patreon in the episode description as well. If it wasn't for Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Huge shout out to Patreon member of the week, Cliff Bennett. Thanks again, guys, for all your support. And we will see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.